Judy Sederof and husband Andreas live in Brunswick East in Melbourne, right next to Merri Creek. Like many people in the inner city, they only have a tiny garden. But this hasn't cramped their style one bit, because Judy has managed to squeeze in stacks of plants and loads of ideas into every inch of this garden. How would you describe your style of gardening to other people?
Oh, it's pretty eclectic, pretty crazy. It's all over the place. And I just collect plants. I'll see a plant and I love it. You know, I'll see it somewhere and go, I've got to have one of those. Or a friend will offer me a plant and I have to have it.
So how big is your garden, Judy?
I think it's 66 square metres,
yeah.
So it's quite small. And we've made the garden at the front of the site and we've backed the house up to the laneway so that there is no garden at the back. We've actually built on the boundary.
And why have you put certain plants in particular areas of your garden?
The main thing is to take advantage of the really good soil on this side of the garden. We planted things that we didn't have to plant in pots. We have quite deep, productive soil here, which we've nurtured and added compost and mulch, but it really was pretty good to begin with. Whereas this side of the garden is really all on rock, so it's had to be built above the ground.
But there's a lot of colour here, which I'm loving. Is that something you've really tried hard to achieve?
Yeah, I guess because it's my, design background, working on interiors, I just love colour and I'm always changing the colour palettes and getting it to work together.
Judy and Andreas have been designing sustainable houses for 30 years. They built their own about a decade ago and have aimed to make it as light on the land as possible. What makes the design of this house really sustainable?
It's the way you put it together. The four critical elements are glass, mass, insulation and, most importantly, orientation. We chose this block because the house faces north, which is the optimum angle for sustainable building design, often called passive design. The critical component is to have super insulation. My ceiling, for example, has 2 feet of insulation in it. The standard is normally asks for about 6 or 7 inches or so. And the glazing is your weakest component thermally, so that's why everything in here is double or triple glazed. The fourth component is thermal mass. And to get this house to 9.5 star, we had to provide way more concrete or brickwork than this house was planned for.
The sustainable principles that underpin the house can also be found out in the garden.
Well, we've used things like not having any hard surfaces so that the land absorbs the moisture and it doesn't heat up the building. We've used a lot of recycled materials. The timber is cypress macrocarpa that's used on the wicking beds and all the raised beds, which is very sustainable timber. We've used a lot of recycled elements like the baskets are old grape baskets from the vineyard days, which we've lined with hessian and grown things in them.
How has water played a role in creating a sustainable landscape?
Well, we have 2 squat rainwater tanks underneath the deck here that are connected with a pump. They collect rainwater from the roof. We use that a lot in summer, not so much in winter because we don't have to water much in winter. Over here we have a point, it's connected to a 3rd pipe to the house, which collects all the grey water from the showers and washing machines.
And I noticed looking around, there's no bare ground here, is there?
No, well, that was one of the things, is to plant heavily so it keeps weeds down. They also provide quite a lot more moisture to the site. So I mulch, but I don't have to weed very often.
That's clever. It's clever gardening. Of course, it's the productive side of the garden that really gets me excited.
Everything in this area of the garden's pretty much edible, even the flowers. Things like nasturtiums and marigolds and violas. This is all my salad greens and herbs. And in summer I can grow some of the bigger veggies like eggplants and tomatoes. Over winter that's more low-growing brassicas and herbs.
But even though there's a lot of low stuff, you've got some great little tent structures and you're utilising the shed wall to grow up.
Yes, yeah.
Now, you've got some great raised beds here, but
yes.
they're wicking beds.
They are. Andreas built these for me. They're really high-functioning wicking beds. They store a lot of the moisture and it wicks up in the soil. I just have to put a light sprinkling of water on top when I'm growing seeds, but mostly the vegetables root down quite well.
I notice your interior design skills are making themselves known in your garden as well.
Yes, well, I do collect things like these are all from op shops, and there's quite a bit of stuff from hard rubbish. The mirrors are collected from hard rubbish on the streets. And I've collected all these little ornaments over time from all sorts of places, travels, op shops, old chandelier pieces.
I think it's so wonderful. They're beautiful all year round. And I think in a temperate garden, when a lot of plants are losing their leaves, having those kinds of elements just help hold a garden together.
Yes, that's visually, probably what I've felt,
yeah. It's visually stunning.
I do it innately. I don't think about it that much.
Like
People say, where'd you get that idea? And I'm just like, I just picked it up. It was on the street and I thought that looked good.
Yeah. Even though it's a small space, there's more than enough happening year-round to keep Judy actively planting, improving and making the most of her little, productive inner-city sanctuary.
I think it's a connection with the earth that, to me, it really grounds me because I can get a bit, in my head, and so it's very soothing.